Welcome back to AM2R, where what the game expects from you is more of a suggestion than a requirement. We're heading back to the entrance here for reasons that I may have, or may have not, delved into very slightly towards the end of last video. That being, we can actually just straight up wall jump up this entire section right here. I bring this up because there's actually a somewhat interesting story behind, well, everything that I'm doing right here, or rather, the history of it. You see, when the game was first being developed, the original design of this area was such that a lot of players would actually do this, would be wall jumping up to here to go do what I'm about to do, far before they are really supposed to, before they're prepared to do so. So, in order to make the intended path slightly more desirable over trying to sequence break, all they did was shift the entrance to the hydro station one tile up off the ground. That way, people would have to make a jump in order to get into that, and thus wouldn't be as encouraged to wall jump up the wall itself. That kind of change is subtle, but so effective at guiding the player where you want them to go, while still technically giving them the freedom to do things like come up here early like I am doing now. This guy might look a little familiar if you've played Metroid Fusion. This is Arachnus, and believe it or not, this is not just a port of putting Arachnus from Fusion into this game for no real reason. This is, in fact, a boss that was in the original Metroid 2, but was, well, I think calling it a boss is a little bit of a stretch. He retains several of his attacks from Fusion, but they've been remixed in a way that makes this fight play out much differently, and he even has quite a few new ones. As well as that, the way you damage him is quite a bit different than just unloading in his face and calling it a day. See, this guy, once you've done enough damage to him, starts going Sonic the Hedgehog on your ass and just rolling around all the time. You can't damage him in this state. In fact, the only thing you really can do is make him jump by leading him into bombs. And by doing this, you can have him jump right into those electrical spires, and, well, Pokemon did teach me that turtles are usually weak to electricity, so... And the Spring Ball, while certainly not necessary, is a welcome addition to make getting around in Morph Ball mode much more convenient. As you can see, that was not too difficult of a fight, but that's because I've actually done that many times before. If you're just doing that for your first time, you come here without any of the upgrades that are available in the rest of the Hydro Station, it can be, let's say, a pain in the ass. The damage Arachnus does is not inconsequential, and his attacks are pretty tough to dodge. This game is based on Zero Mission after all, and bombs were powerful there, and they're just as powerful here. Make no mistake. Now this Metroid, in particular, can be quite a pain, especially on hard mode. As you can see, this guy actually moves really fast and very erratically. It can be a huge pain in the ass to actually get this guy into a position where you can consistently hit him. He just makes these big swooping dives at you and does not give you a whole lot of room to maneuver. So they can be quite a tricky fight just for how erratic they move alone. Well, as you can see, this is the Hydro Station, so of course there's got to be water somewhere down here, and well, it looks like we might have broken things a little bit. This is the lower section of the Hydro Station, and I know it's kind of weird that I'm doing this part before exploring anything, well, more central, but this is more convenient as it's a much shorter pathway that leads to a very good reward. Let's just say that much. And dealing with these fans can be quite annoying since they do suck you in and do quite a bit of damage. Apparently, even though Samus has a fully functioning ancient alien suit of armor, not good enough to protect her from industrial fan blades. And again, I guess this place was technically made by the Chozo in the lore of this game, so maybe the fan blades are Chozodian strength and able to cut through power armor intentionally. Who knows? Hey, if you gotta deal with Chozodian cat burglars somehow, may as well do it with your filtration system. Anyways, there is something up here, and I'm trying to be a little fancy with the triangle bomb jump, but unfortunately, I'm not very good at timing that. It's much easier to just use the line bomb for that one. Or, you know, just go around and spider ball your way normally, but I want to be fancy. I can't not be fancy. Man, speaking of fancy, the plumbing around here is state of the art. I mean, what other places do you know of that have plumbing good enough to flush out a Samus? With how good the Chozo are at plumbing and filtration, they should just make a space water park at this point. Screw leaving behind power-ups for Samus to find, just leave behind a water park planet for her to find. Let her have a vacation, for crying out loud. I guess that's the big downside to being a space bounty hunter. Poor vacation time. And coming up here it... Oh. Well, I guess we don't have anything here. Time to turn back around and leave this place never to return. Well, it's not quite that simple. This place has a lot of empty item balls. Is this just the place where they store all of them before they get filled up with power-ups and distributed around the planet? I'd believe it. But coming up here nets us the Various suit. Very, very helpful. Still such a good animation. The Various suit is completely optional in this game, as there are no superheated areas on SR388, but the defense boost alone, and the just general fashion upgrade, makes it well worth your time and effort getting to it, so there you go. In the original game, getting it also increased Samus's walking speed for some bizarre reason. I don't quite understand that, but hey. But here it's just a straight-up defensive upgrade, which I'm certainly not complaining about, because soon enough we'll be encountering some very, very tough opponents. Some of the toughest Metroids in the game, in my book, for the point at which you're fighting them, so having every bit of defense and health we can get, it kinda helps a lot. Just a tiny little bit. Anyways, there was an entrance over to this way that I entered very briefly and then noped the hell out of there earlier because I wanted to get the Various suit first, but now we're going to go ahead and explore this area proper, including this clueless alpha over here, who, if you just do it just right, you can actually just barely get his butt with a missile and then just kind of juggle him against the platform there. That guy is another one of many alphas that moves very erratically if you can't get them into a pattern, so it's in your best interest to try and do that, if at all possible. Yeah, we saw this little contraption on our way up the shaft earlier, so now we can actually get to it from, well, the inside. And there's a jerkish turret over here. I don't know why that thing is there. It's probably... Actually, I do know why it's there, but it's still a jerk move, man. That thing hits me every time. But we get the wave beam now, a nice upgrade, but unfortunately not as good as it was in some earlier demo builds of this game. See, previously it had its properties from Zero Mission where every time you shot with it, it had, well, 2 individual shots without needing any sort of other upgrades to go alongside of it. But unfortunately, in AM2R, it's just a single shot, much like in the original Metroid, which is somewhat unfortunate, but, well, we deal with it. It's still a welcome upgrade for dealing with enemies safely, but our beam still isn't the best. We've only gotten the charge and the wave beam upgrades for it, and so it's not necessarily the go-to for taking out random enemies. Some of them, sure, but the majority of them, I still prefer to use missiles on right now. Missiles are still, I think, the go-to for taking out random enemies because they can just take things out in 1 to 3 shots, and it's really nice. Yeah, the high jump boots are just kind of tucked away back here in this little corner of the station, and oh man, now it actually feels like a Metroid game. I don't know what it is, but anytime I go back to replay pretty much any 2D Metroid, or I guess even really Prime, playing through the part of the game where you don't have any jump upgrades just always feels super awkward and weird to me. I don't know. Probably because you spend more time with things like high jump than without, and so just the time where you don't have it feels awkward to me. I don't know. But we have it, and that's a welcome, welcome addition. I don't know if it's just me, but it feels like the high jump boosts your jump height by a lot more in this game than it does in most other Metroids. I don't know. I think that's probably just me, but maybe I'm not imagining it. Maybe it is actually just a little bit higher than in, say, Zero Mission or something like that. I don't know for sure. I haven't bothered to actually look at the tile difference and all that. I'm unfortunately not that crazy detail oriented about these types of things, but yeah, these little robots here, I believe they're known as Autodes or something like that. They can be really annoying because they just have a ton of health, and even missiles don't really take them out that efficiently. They do get stopped whenever they're taking damage, which is nice because they're pretty agile. Deceptively so, I would say, considering that they're these giant hopping robots that really don't seem like they should be. But hey, what are you gonna do? Also really not sure how to feel about their name of Autod. I mean, I would feel like you could come up with a better name for that. Like, I don't know, call them Skippy. Skippy's a much better name for these guys. But at this point, the Hydro Station is pretty much completely looted out, from the inside at least. There's still plenty to do outside, but as far as the main building itself goes, we've pretty much cleaned the place out. So, with all that in mind, we're just going to get the heck out of here. Much easier to get through a large shaft like this with the high jump in tow. Oh man. High jump and wall jumping is just such a glorious combination. And I haven't really talked about how the control in this game feels compared to Zero Mission, despite the fact that it is heavily based off of that game's physics, but the control in this game just feels honestly a lot smoother than Zero Mission, which is somehow a thing that they were able to do. I don't know how they managed to improve upon an already great control scheme, but god damn it, they did. This game is so responsive and feels so just good to handle Samus. It's crazy. I mean, for starters, there's actually a dedicated morph ball button, which is amazing for keeping the pace up, which I can't believe I haven't mentioned at this point. Wall jumping feels so fluid, and bomb jumping, even horizontally, feels so natural. Speaking of bomb jumping, you can use that to get up here, even though you're kind of supposed to need the high jump, but hey, there we go. But we're going to explore deeper into this place next time, because, well, that music can only mean one thing and one thing alone. Things are growing deadlier. See you next time.